on the Puget Sound. So
Yeah.
fond memories of that area.
And whereabouts are you from?
I am based in Utah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm located way up north in Toronto, Canada.
Nice. Nice.
I think
I've
I
got
actually might be more south than you, but
I have people in Toronto, which is awesome.
oh,
So
lovely,
yeah.
lovely. In the space education sphere or family?
No, space education sphere.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
Well, we should say hello to them. Are they here today?
I do not know.
No.
Um, it's getting harder to track everyone. I have over 1,300 educators worldwide, and but yeah, a small cadre of folks in Canada, both Toronto, Edmonton, Calgary, uh, Montreal. Uh,
Very nice.
yeah,
Well, would love to hear more, but a bit more cognizant of time, but maybe we can
yep.
have a chat after. I think we're going to have time at the end for questions and discussions. And we're opening things up kind of in the middle of the presentation to give everybody a break from myself and my colleague Josh, who's going to be speaking as well today, for an interactive discussion. So we're hoping that we can have a little bit of an informal get to know you session right in the middle there, and then hopefully plenty of time at the end as well. But if it works for everyone, Logan and Christian and Wendy, I think we'll just start right on time here and jump in. It's so nice to meet you guys, and I'm really happy to be here today. I am Emily. I'm the Director of Education for Starborn Academy, which is a program at Uplift Aerospace, and it is astronaut training for kids. And it blends hands on education, both virtual and in person, with workforce development. So, just a bit about me to introduce myself. My background is in immersive media and STEM education, and my professional experience bridges technology and storytelling. And I'm really focused on bringing awe inspiring experiences to students through VR, film, and interactive content. Over the past 2 years, I've had the very large pleasure of leading the development of Starborn Academy with my team at Uplift Aerospace, which evolved directly actually from our commercial astronaut training programs, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But in our training sessions with our astronauts, we began using VR to simulate critical space scenarios, like the overview effect and mission specific procedures for these astronauts. And we saw firsthand just how powerful narrative and immersion could enhance learning outcomes in our astronauts. So, and we also recognize right away that astronauts are really the perfect role model for interdisciplinary STEM learning. They're trained, as many of you guys know, in everything from engineering and robotics to biology, communications, psychology. So we built Starborn Academy to bring that same inspiration and experience to students, especially those who have not traditionally seen themselves in STEM careers. So just really excited to be here today. I'm thrilled to discuss our program. And we also have the pleasure of being joined by our CEO at Uplift Aerospace, Josh Haynes. I will let him introduce himself.
Yeah, it's amazing to be here with all of you. Logan and Wendy, Christian, appreciate you joining. AD, I don't know if that's your full name, but nice to see you all. And quick background. So, Uplift Aerospace, we focus on human spaceflight research. So, we have an astronaut going to space later this year as part of a collaboration and research program with Utah State University, focused around the vestibular system. And then we have two more, not yet officially announced, but in the works flights for next year. And we also have done some different research payloads and then more on the commercial side. So that's just a quick introduction to Uplift Aerospace. And we created, as Emily said, we created Starborn Academy as a ed tech division based off of some of the technology we found was really beneficial for learning and realized there was an opportunity there using virtual reality to inspire and engage and teach skills that are beneficial when you're considering career pathways to get into aerospace in general. So with that, Emily, I'll turn it back to you. And yeah, look forward to meeting everyone further.
So I am someone that loves structure and appreciates having a bit of an outline. So I have kind of divided up our hour here today, more or less. We'll try to stick to this. We're going to start by diving into a little bit more behind Uplift Aerospace and the origins of Starborn Academy. Then we'll take a deeper dive into how the program works and pause for a bit there in the middle to have an interactive discussion here as a group about immersive educational techniques. We'll also explore how this type of program can be implemented at schools and organizations and with collaborators. And then finally, we'll wrap up with next steps if you're interested in contacting us or any questions that you may have for further discussion. So there is a QR code here on this slide. It leads to our website. There is a form you can fill out if you wanted to get in touch right away or just pop onto the website. Feel free to follow that QR code there, but I'll also have up all of our contact information at the end of the presentation as well. So.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think I may have jumped the gun a little bit, but I gave some good context. But these are some of the programs that we've run, mentioned around our focus on human spaceflight research. So understanding the human body in space. And we have some really exciting research programs and collaborations with universities and technologies that we're working on to further our ability to explore space and thrive in space. So that's just the quick and dirty around Uplift Aerospace.
And so while our core business does revolve around aerospace research and commercial astronaut training with programs with NASA and commercial spaceflight providers, we also believe that the future of space exploration starts in the classroom, as I think many of you probably believe as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we began implementing VR and immersive education into our commercial astronaut training program a few years ago. And we found that our astronaut candidates were more engaged and better prepared to go to space after doing these simulations. And so that's why we created Starborn Academy. We've implemented the program in every middle school in Salt Lake City School District. We've launched the program now across Denver public schools, as well as in California and Florida, and hopefully very soon Texas. We are working to expand our program into community programs as well, homeschooling networks and after-school partners in our home state of Utah and beyond. Today, you're going to hear quite a bit about our Moon Mission program, which is a new program as part of our Starborn Academy curriculum. We just launched it for the first time this winter, and it's a program that helps students research, write, and code a personal message that can be sent aboard a NASA CLPS lunar lander mission. This gives students the opportunity to see something that they create go to the surface of the moon, which is really exciting. So really reinforcing that real-world connection. So beyond, rocket launches and VR headsets, our goal is deeper. We want students to see themselves in future career pathways that they otherwise may never really have imagined, from aerospace engineering to robotics, coding, biotech, planetary science. We really like to focus on career-connected learning, real-world application, and giving students ownership over what they're creating in our program. Because I think when students can see how their learning connects to the real world and even to space as an extreme example, their engagement, confidence, and aspirations really do skyrocket, as we've seen. So we're just going to take a quick moment to step back and talk about why programs like this matter. I think everyone here is probably on the same page, but we're at a turning point in education, I think. The demand for STEM skills today is increasing exponentially. And a lot of traditional approaches to education are not really keeping pace. So right now, 75% of the fastest growing careers require STEM skills, and STEM supports over 2/3 of US jobs and GDP. So that's trillions in economic impact. And it's only growing, and I think we can anticipate it's just going to continue to trend upwards. But what we're seeing when we talk to students and when they fill out some pre-assessment forms that we have, many students still see STEM disciplines as rigid, difficult, or not for them. And we find this is particularly true among neurodiverse students and students who maybe haven't traditionally seen themselves represented within STEM fields. So this is where I think that narrative-based experiential learning really does make a big difference for these students. Research has shown that when students are immersed in story-driven, hands-on environments, like VR and hands-on workshops. They retain more, they stay engaged longer, and they connect to real-world learning outcomes. So just as a little bit of a teaser for some of the results we're seeing, students are not just memorizing content. They actually get the chance to see themselves as problem solvers, scientists, and explorers. So, I think if we want to meet the workforce needs of tomorrow and make STEM more inclusive and approachable today, we got to reimagine how we teach it. So Josh, I'll let you jump in and introduce this here.
Yeah, this is just a quick video that we wanted to share to provide some context around impact. So it has interviews and testimonials all the way from state level workforce development and Board of Education to school district level, CTE directors, then the teachers and even students. So this is just a great reference in reinforcing what Emily was just talking about, the power of career-connected learning and narrative-based education that uses the problem-based learning model.
My favorite part about Starborn Academy is
Oop.
there is nothing like it.
Sorry, I'm just going to restart that. Can everyone hear okay?
Yeah, I would max out the volume on it.
Okay.
My favorite part about Starborn Academy is it's different. There is nothing like it that I've ever experienced in decades of being in education.
Starborn Academy is an interactive VR experience that teaches kids about space exploration, and all the cool college and career pathways associated with this new space era.
It is very cool being a minor astronaut. There are challenges that you are set with that you can overcome, and it's really realistic.
It's exposing students to opportunities to be able to explore that they've never had before.
We're energizing young people to see themselves as part of the community, part of their country, part of their world, and part of their universe in really, really meaningful ways that matter to them.
They are envisioning themselves in the future, envisioning engineering, they're envisioning science, people that are going to be change makers in the future and in technology.
They can experience it firsthand and be a part of it versus just watching it happen.
We already have 6th graders asking, Mrs. H, are we going to do this when I'm in 8th grade?
They're experiencing zero gravity. They are building rovers. They're coding drones.
Let's you do the things instead of just showing, hey, here's a diagram.
Being the narrator of your own future is what we are empowering our kids to do.
And in that process, they are learning science. They are working on language skills. They are getting a chance to take a real interesting look at career and college pathways that they definitely didn't know about before.
So it's a whole different way of learning that they've never experienced before. It makes the class instruction a lot more meaningful because then they're able to have hands-on experience. So it's adding dimension to what we learn and how we learn. But the thing that I love the most is seeing their faces after they've completed a module.
Honest and pure joy. Like, they're really excited about doing this. There's a lot of talk in the hallways about it. There's a lot of buzz. I don't have a single student that was late today to class. I don't have a single student that's absent today. I think the standard go to class, pull out your number 2 pencil and sit in a desk just is no longer relevant. One thing I just love about this is that it makes kids excited about school again.
You can learn a bit more about space. You can ask questions to astronauts.
And you have to think about it, but it's fun, and it's also a cool place to learn and explore things.
Through building work-based learning opportunities like this, they get excited. They create that connection earlier on. So now you see this ability for a student to know exactly what they want to do after school.
To enter into that workforce prepared, excited, capable, that is an alignment that is crucial.
From the pilot program that we started last year to the full expansion in all of our middle schools, I have seen an increased growth of love for learning, of love for STEM careers. Our students leave the classroom and they want more. We are ecstatic to see that they have ignited a new sense of learning. My favorite part about Starborn.
Hopefully that wasn't too laggy. I did get a note that it was a bit laggy. I don't know if that was on my end or not, but hopefully everybody was able to hear that. Logan, was the video able to come through okay on your end? Oh, you are muted. Sorry.
Yeah, the video was a bit lagged, but the audio came through just clear. So
Okay. Yeah. All right. I have shut everything else on my computer. So hopefully we do have one more short video. Hopefully that'll be a little bit better. If it's not, just send me a message and we can maybe skip over it. I know sometimes it's a little painful to watch bad video quality. Okay.
Actually, when you share your screen, check the option to optimize video, which is an option that is presented to you when you share a screen that has video or audio on it.
Okay.
But you'll have to unshare and reshare in order to get that option back.
Okay. I'll do that before we do the next one. Thank you very much, Logan. That's great.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay. So I hope that, what we said so far and with the video, it's been clear that what we're trying to do is more than just teach science. We're looking to spark real interest in STEM career pathways while helping students develop critical thinking and problem solving and collaboration skills that serve them far beyond the classroom as they head into high school and college and their careers. We do have a few different options within the umbrella of Starborn Academy, so it can be fairly flexible for teachers or for school districts. And there is up to 8 weeks of hands-on NGSS aligned curriculum, specifically for students between the ages of 11 and 17. Our VR component is called Starborn Academy Level 1, and it is a curriculum that happens within a fully immersive VR environment where students are stepping into the boots of an astronaut and starting, astronaut training within missions. So they are able to do everything from launching rockets and building rovers to coding drones and navigating life support systems. And in this program, these students are exploring complex STEM subjects through interactive simulations. So they're picking things up, putting things down, testing, experimenting, all with their hands in VR. And it makes the learning feel very real and relevant and exciting. So because this experience is rooted in career-connected learning, they're not just learning about space, although that is a really cool component of what they're learning, but they're starting to envision themselves in careers like engineering and robotics and software development. So at its core, it's about building confidence and curiosity and capacity through these simulated missions, and giving them the tools and the mindset to succeed in a world that's really increasingly being shaped by this type of science and technology. And then one of the core things that I'm really passionate about, and I think is a founding sort of factor within Starborn Academy, is narrative-based education. So not just teaching facts in interactive ways, but inviting students to participate in a story where they're the protagonists. The VR portion of the curriculum, they're not just learning about orbits and space flights, they're going on simulated missions where they get to train like astronauts and make strategic decisions using interdisciplinary concepts to solve real world problems. So it's very story driven. And I think through that, it taps into emotion and identity. It's this deeper level of learning. It's not just engaging, it's almost personally transformative for a lot of the students that participate. So when we layer that immersive virtual reality, we unlock something I think that's even more powerful. So we have the ability to generate what we call true moments of awe, AWE. In our VR program, students are, seeing Earth from orbit, they're experiencing weightlessness, they're stepping onto the surface of an unknown planet. So these aren't just abstract ideas anymore, they're now lived concepts through virtual reality. And we've seen firsthand how this evokes something, for example, like the overview effect. It evokes something very similar to the psychological shift that astronauts have when they describe viewing Earth from space for the first time. Students are coming away in their post surveys with a deeper sense of connection, not just to science, but to humanity. They're asking bigger questions. They care more about our planet. They're starting to think like global citizens and future problem solvers. So that's really the kind of mindset that we're hoping to cultivate through this narrative-based education. It's not just STEM knowledge, although that's extremely important, but it's the empathy and the vision to apply it in a meaningful way.
I'll jump in here. This is unscripted, but I think this is a great point to what Emily was saying around this idea about caring more. So in one of our last programs, we surveyed over 700 students who participated. And we were focused on results around computer science and careers in computer science. But we surveyed around a lot of other career fields just to see how the program was affecting students' interests. And we actually saw a really big jump in students who want to pursue careers in environmental science. And so I think that really goes to what Emily was saying about when we're able to teach education at a deeper level, where it becomes almost their identity, and we do it. What Emily was mentioning, the overview effect. I think we can see those results in areas we didn't even expect to get students excited about. And that is really at the heart of what we're trying to do is, yes, we love the space industry, but we are not running Starborn Academy to turn everybody into astronauts. We are running Starborn Academy to open up the doors and help them just realize it's okay to dream and it's okay to think bigger. And we see those results where maybe we're not targeting environmental science, but um, we are seeing, improvements in a lot of different STEM related fields, which is exciting. And I think that's a a reason for and an argument for this type of education as a model in general.
This is actually a great place to pause for a bit of an interactive discussion. Thanks for the reactions there, Logan. That's awesome. We wanted to jump into and just get a better sense at this point. First of all, it's a lot of chatting on our part, so I think it's a good moment to just pause and get to know everybody else here a little bit better too, now that you have a better sense of our program. But we'd love to do a quick hands up poll, or you can contribute in the chat. We're curious about who has used VR in the classroom before on this call. If you've used VR in the classroom or a similar kind of educational or organizational setting, if you've used VR for education before, there are certainly, I think, challenges and successes or wins that we have experienced over the past few years, but we'd love to just open it up and learn a little bit more about your guys' experience, either with VR or specifically with other types of immersive tech and how that's worked in the classroom. So Wendy says, I have not had an opportunity to try it. Is that in the classroom, Wendy, or is that just personally you have not had an opportunity to try VR at all? Feel free to answer in the chat.
You can also come on off of mute if you want to voice a response to that.
Yes, join us if you would like. And Logan, oh, both. Okay. Yes. Well, I mean, it's new, right? And I think within the last 5 years, there have been advances in VR tech that have brought it to a wider audience of people that previously it just was not suited for. And one of those, and maybe I'll let Josh chat about this a little bit more because he's very involved in the tech aspect of it. But previously, I think we would not have been able to expand these types of programs to hundreds and hundreds of students at a time with the state of VR tech. So maybe Josh, I'll let you chime in a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think this is interesting information for those who have used VR in a classroom setting before or personally, and for those who've never tried it at all. So here's just some information that I hope everyone will feel is beneficial to them as an educator or involved in education. I'd say pre-2022, it was extremely challenging to use VR in an educational setting because of the user experience was just pretty clunky, to be honest. So, teachers would try to bring VR into a classroom, and then there would just be too many user errors that would happen in an educational setting. So, for example, if you were to try to have 30 students in VR all at once, pre-2022, it was almost like a nightmare scenario for a teacher because every student was at different parts and had different questions or problems all at once, and it just did not work out very well. And that is true if you think about any technology, as it goes through the adoption phase. Just think back to like the 80s and 90s as personal desktop computers were being adopted into education. And you can think back to the colorful computer labs that Apple brought in and pushed out throughout the US. There was a big learning curve there. And if you think about it, the the computers are just this massively complex system, but now you can look back and realize the incredible benefits it's had in education. And I think the same thing is true from the learning curve with VR is um, some of the most important things that have now happened since 2022 include probably first and foremost is price. Before VR priced out, making it accessible in schools at scale. So you had headset costs at $1,000 or more. And now you can get really good VR headsets for $300 per headset. So pricing is finally at a point where it can be adopted at scale in educational settings. The other one is the integration of really high quality mixed reality experiences at and that use your hands. So before you had to use controllers in VR, which was another just problem because the batteries would die, so it's just another logistical thing. So now you can just put on a VR headset, or your whole class could put on a VR headset. It could be an experience just using your hands, and it makes it sort of tactile. You actually feel like you're grabbing something or working with things in a virtual reality environment. And I think those two are probably the most important. And then just from a basic level, simple things like managing the headsets has gotten much easier. You can manage whole fleets of headsets through different platforms, and um, teachers can see what the students are doing on their desktop screen to know exactly what's going on or what problems or challenges they may be experiencing at that time. And so that those are just a few, but I would say VR adoption in education is going to continue to expand very rapidly over the next 5 years, to where I would say most schools in 5 years from now will be using virtual reality as a way to reinforce what is being taught in a very immersive way. And I think the most important part of that is when we run a program, let's say there are two classes running at once in a school, so a total of 80 kids in a period in two different rooms, we can have 100% engagement with all 80 students. And it is very rare to see that in an educational setting and using many other types. Not saying it's not seeing otherwise, but I would just want to emphasize that it is once you see it in person and you're in an environment where you're like, we just went from like 20% of students listening and participating at any given moment to 100%. You sort of have that aha moment of like, okay, I may not love technology or love integrating new things into my classroom, but now I can see the why of how this can help support my personal goals or my personal work as an educator. So that was a lot of words, and I'll throw it back out. If anybody has any other thoughts, or I mean, it'd be great to just meet everybody here too. If people want to chime in, we'd love to know what you're doing. A little bit of background, just some introductions, I think would be great. If we could maybe do like 5 or 10 minutes. What do you think, Emily?
Yep. Yeah. And also, if you're not comfortable chiming in too, like that's okay. But we'd love to just know who's in the crowd so we can better have discussions now and at the end.
I have a follow-up question for both of you.
Yeah.
So, what have you learned that lowers the barrier? Like, what have you discovered and changed in your approach to introducing VR? So, have there been like barriers of entry, things that has influenced how you approach or introduce this technology to both the educator as well as the educators introducing this to the students? What have you learned? And what have you changed in order to kind of help lower that barrier of entry and adoption that will ultimately allow students to understand that it's not just a game, but it's also can be used as a toy. So it's like gamifying a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lots. We've learned lots. We're going to talk a little bit more specifically about implementation in a little bit, but Josh, do you want to talk about maybe like the early stages of implementation and some of the lessons learned there?
Yeah, and then if we need to, we can skip that later on too. But um, I'd say big lessons learned that are really helpful are one is teacher training and teacher buy-in and adoption is critical. So, and I think everybody probably has seen this to some degree is we always emphasize finding teachers first that are wanting it. If a teacher doesn't want it, we do not try to push just because we want long-term success and adoption. So that's the first one. And once we have that, the next stage is teacher training. So we do a day for teacher training where teachers get to come in and become quick experts in a way of VR. Experts is a loose term because people in general, there's not very many people that know a whole lot about VR. So we get them up to speed in a day and then also give them all the tools and materials from teacher instruction packets to essentially everything they need to run the program successfully. And then the next component has been from our side is creating really good orientation training for teachers and students outside of that teacher training day, just video series, essentially like the how-tos of using VR. For students, we figured out how to gamify that aspect, which was a big barrier initially. Is VR is a new technology, so you have the barrier of understanding for students to where when we first started, I remember this one in particular, the first or second class we ever tried this in as a pilot program. I was there for that, and there, I think after like 30 minutes, a student finally raised their hand and they had had VR on the whole time. And they're like, my screen is black. And so we went up and we looked at it and we're like, well, you haven't powered it on yet. So um, that sounds funny, but for people who have no idea or context of a new technology,
Yeah.
that was another, probably the most important thing we learned is how to actually teach the new technology in a very step-by-step way. So now in 45 minutes before where we had a hard time just getting them logged in, now they learn powering it up, typing in VR, using their hands in VR, point selecting, accessing menus, restarting apps, logging in, creating accounts. We do that all now within 45 minutes, and I'd say 95% of students now finish that, where we before we'd have like maybe 5% of students finishing that in 30 or 45 minutes. So it's been another big one. And then other helpful tips and tricks are power management. So having a really good battery system, most VR only lasts for 2 hours. So this is something we've innovated on is new battery systems that go with headsets that are really, really cost effective. Um, I think that's unique to our program, and headset management systems are really critical. So making sure students are only accessing what they should access when you want them to access it. Uh, uh, I don't know. I can go into so much. There's so many
Yeah,
learning points, but
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for that. I didn't want to steal your thunder for implementation, but I appreciate that response. It looks like we have another question.
Yeah, we have a question from Wendy and a raised hand if you want to chime in the chat or unmuting Wendy.
Sure. Hi. Thank you for doing this. I've really enjoyed it. My question is, you mentioned that you guys were doing this somewhere in Texas. I was really curious as to where in Texas this was already being used.
Yeah, we've run different community programs out there. Most of the ones have been for charter schools in Houston. So um, I don't know if that helps answer your question or not.
Yeah. I was just curious if it's a school district or what. And then are there grants available for participation, or is this just pay only kind of a deal?
Yeah, we have a team that helps with grants. So if first, because a lot of school districts don't have funding set aside for these type of special programs. So we like a good example is this last spring, we worked with the Utah State Board of Education to get funding for a whole school district. We've done other like federal type of initiatives to support school districts or local philanthropic. Sometimes you can find local companies, things like that. But Emily and Mason from our team are great points of contact for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Right before we move on, Josh, I think since we are talking a little bit about funding here, it might make sense to talk about like headset costs for the first year. Do you want to chat about that since it's a bit of a new development?
Yeah, this is something exciting and unique, I think, from our program is we solely use the MetaQuest devices, and we've had a lot of success. And because of that, Meta recently has partnered with us, and they through our partnership, we can offer free or no cost, I should say, headsets for that first year of implementation. And the reason why that matters is it helps with essentially setting up infrastructure for the school districts where they haven't been using VR to help them learn what they actually need to successfully run it. And that way, when they do decide to make a big equipment purchase in VR, they're a lot more prepared and there's the buy-in and interest levels and are already established. So that's a really big help actually, because buying whole new equipment is also just a massive cost. So to have that at no cost for the first year and really decide like, is this something I like and want to do long term is really helpful.
Absolutely. I was not given specific settings for optimizing for video, Logan, when I shared my screen again. But we're just going to power forward.
Yeah.
If that's all right. Okay. Well, we'll give a bit more information and then we can have another discussion here towards the end of the chat. Josh, I will let you take it away.
Yeah, so I think my favorite part of this is as an aerospace company, we try to give access to some of the programs and projects that we are running so that we want to be both, we think we see the value of VR, but we also love the value of doing as much hands-on activation as we can. So some of the great examples that we've done in the past are bringing students out to Spaceport America, Starbase. We have a group of students and teachers going to, as part of a moon mission that we have with Astrolab that's going to the moon later this year. We're bringing, I think, a group of 20 students and teachers out to Kennedy Space Center to see the launch and meet engineers and just be able to immerse themselves in real life in that way. And that has had probably the biggest impact for long term. And it's something that we also just love.
Okay, here is this next video. I am going to play it. If it is horrendous, I've shut everything else on my computer. So if it does not go well, please just write in the chat or raise your hand and I will maybe pop it in the chat for people to check out at a later time. Here we go.
Well, space may be the final frontier, and for some local students, it's actually closer than ever.
Uplift Aerospace is bringing a program that combines VR technology with real-life astronaut training to students at Denver School of Innovation and Sustainable Design.
And as Denver 7's Colin Riley shows us, it's giving kids the chance to send a little piece of their work all the way to the moon.
This is how astronaut Edgar Mitchell describes the overview effect, a feeling astronauts get when looking back at Earth, seeing the entirety of humanity all at once.
So for the overview effect, people have different experiences, but what's very common is a feeling of oneness, a feeling of appreciation for life, the idea that we're all here on spaceship Earth. How does our outlook on life and Earth change when we can actually see the Earth from space?
Josh Haynes, the CEO of Uplift Aerospace, is looking to ignite that feeling in students by bringing the Starborn Academy to their classroom. During this 8-week course, students will get inside a real spacesuit and learn with VR. And as cool as that is, the big idea is to get more kids interested in science.
I think I'm not sure what engineering, but I think I'm gonna be an engineer at some point.
Hopefully some career in astronomy, physics, something sciencey.
I mean, I love space, but I kind of want to work here on Earth.
Something engineering related. My main thing I want to do is definitely between information technology and advanced engineering.
The program will also teach kids that space isn't all about astronauts.
So I want really students to understand that the enormous possibility, and programs like this really allows that to happen. We'll start seeing those ideas and possibly considerations of new careers that they never had thought about before.
Much like the overview effect, the course also gets students thinking broadly, asking them to envision a future they will help create.
Definitely progress and scientific infrastructure.
In general, progress. I love innovation, seeing just the world develop as a whole.
At the end of the course, students will put their vision into words and their words into computer code to be opened in 50 years in the form of a time capsule. At the end of this year, that time capsule will be launched on a rocket and placed on the surface of the moon.
So many people here on Earth that doesn't get that opportunity, you know what I mean? Like, I guess it just feels lucky, because like, why me?
Liftoff. We have liftoff with Apollo 14.
In Denver, Colin Riley, Denver 7.
Incredible. And the school will also pick one lucky student to send to Kennedy Space Center in Florida later this year to watch their time capsule blast off into space. I didn't have anything like that when I was in high school. I would
But
have
I can
loved
imagine
that.
the
That'd be
overview
close.
effect you get just at the top of a 14er,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and then what it feels like
That
from up
vantage
there.
point,
Yeah.
just a little speck in the distance.
Well, space may be the final frontier, and for
Perfect. So yeah, I think highlighting this, Emily mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, is the new program we've added to Starborn Academy, which is the moon mission. So this goes in collaboration with the learning in VR, and the idea behind it is we want to be able to teach skills that are very useful in the aerospace industry itself. So we introduce them to a lot of different career pathways. And then they start learning basic Python coding and actually code their own time capsule. And as you saw in that video, all of the students' projects actually are then put on a rover and will be part of a lunar mission that goes to the moon. And this is a program we're rolling out long term just because we're seeing really strong benefits and results from it. And any other additions you want to add to that, Emily?
No, I think that's good. We'll jump back into it again at the end, but I think that covers it. I'll just add our last little component of Starborn Academy, and we'll recap at the end. So outside of the VR and the moon mission curriculum, we also have a spacesuit workshop where students get the rare chance to experience what it's like to literally step into the boots of an astronaut. So it's immersive. Students get to put on a pressurized spacesuit and begin to understand really the true, I think, physical and mental demands of working in space. So it's not necessarily just about wearing the suit. It's about learning how to move, how to problem solve, and adapt under pressure, just like real astronauts do. And throughout the experience, they explore the engineering and the science behind human spaceflight. Why the suit matters, how it's designed, and what it protects against when people are in space. They then put that knowledge to the test in some training simulations and team-based challenges that mirror kind of real-life mission tasks that astronauts do. So we think this is more than just a cool activity. I think it's quite a powerful connection to real-world STEM careers in aerospace, biomedical engineering, systems design, and more. They get to work with professionals that we have to go out and talk with them about the engineering of the systems as well. And I think this is a really good example of helping students see how classroom learning does apply to real life problems. And I think most importantly, how they can actually be the ones to solve these problems.
Amazing. So here's some of the results that we've got that I referenced earlier. But so this was a recent survey we took. 63% of students became more aware of STEM careers. 52% said they were more interested in pursuing STEM careers. And I think that's critical And also huge because this is not running in like a pre-selected course, meaning like it's not an elective. This group of students was in the essentially a required CTE course. And so we had everything from students who loved, dancing and arts and to sports and just the whole field of potential interests. And to have 52% out of, I think we had a little over 700 say that now they're more interested in STEM careers is a huge win that we were really excited to see. And then maybe the most impressive is we were going after specifically trying to increase their knowledge and interest in pursuing computer science careers. And 42 or 43% said that now they're more interested in pursuing computer science careers, which is computer science is generally pretty like boring, but for somebody who loves sports, for example, you don't have a lot of crossover and alignment of I love sports and I want to be a computer scientist. And so what our goal was to try to show them the why and put them, like Emily has emphasized, in the scenario where they can see themselves in that situation and actively solving problems and understanding, how that impact of this career is having on humanity and the future of humanity. And we had really good results from that overall.
Yeah. I think some anecdotal things we can add as well outside of kind of the survey results, just from teacher exit interviews, we were finding that overall students were showing up on time and focused and engaged, especially like students that had attendance issues in other settings. We were finding that, classes had 100% attendance and teachers were really blown away by that. Another kind of anecdotal comment from a teacher was that students were like filming each other when they were in VR and when they were at the symposium. And this was not just for a grade, but they actually really wanted to share the experience that they had with their friends and family. They were really proud of what they were doing, whether that was in the spacesuit or presenting at the symposium. So there are these other, I think, anecdotal, emotional, and human elements that have been captured as well that are really meaningful for us when we get to hear them. So Josh, I'll let you take this one away.
Yeah, I think we've covered most of this, but the main thing is a lot of what we're saying is we've tried to create a flexible program. So it could just be the VR or it could be everything that we've talked about, but it's based around an 8-week curriculum.
And then I think one thing we haven't really touched on until a second ago is that the program culminates in a symposium. So this is a celebratory event. Some schools choose not to do it, but I think most really enjoy it and see the value in it. And at that symposium, students get to present projects to peers, educators, and family. And I think most importantly, a panel of local STEM professionals that come in to serve as judges. They get to showcase what they've learned through their research and creativity and problem solving, whether it's coding for the moon mission or presenting their vision for the future of space exploration. So we found that I think giving students an authentic audience, not just teachers, but real life professionals, elevates their confidence and sense of purpose and pride in what they're doing. And at the end of the event, we recognize top projects with awards for innovation and creativity and technical excellence. And then in schools that do opt in for kind of the full program, which includes the space launch, top students are selected from the symposium to attend a space launch, and they get VIP access to launch facilities, meeting engineers and astronauts, and representing their school at this type of once-in-a-lifetime event. So this is really, I love when schools have this symposium. It's really, I think, where everything comes together, all the hard work and learning they've done, transferring into like that recognition within their community and real world outcomes. And so each student receives a certificate when they complete the program, recognizes their achievement and participation in the astronaut training and the moon mission. And we like to think of it as a symbol of the effort they put in, the skills they developed, and the future pathways that they have started to explore through this program. And honestly, for many students, it's really the first time that they've publicly been recognized for a STEM program or STEM experience. So it seems small, but I think it's meaningful in a way to help them see themselves as part of something bigger.
I think we covered this, but this is the Excellence Award from the symposium, where students are selected to actually go out to whatever launch that their program was based around. So if it's a moon mission launch, taking out to Kennedy Space Center, or anything along those lines.
Okay, so we're going to start to wrap up here, and I just want to leave everybody with a few key takeaways. So I think first, we know that the future of STEM learning and space education depends on how we engage students today, how we involve them in space exploration today. And we have found that through immersive experiences like VR and astronaut training, spacesuit workshops, lunar missions, our program is really helping students see themselves as scientists and engineers and innovators in whatever their chosen field is. And then second, I think it's important when you have any kind of new and emerging tech, we really don't like to have a tech-specific focus. Our program is really about ownership and relevance and access. And VR does that in a really, really good way by putting students as protagonists within these missions and providing access to technology that, maybe they otherwise wouldn't have access to. So, whether it's coding a time capsule and sending that to the moon or solving challenges in the pressurized spacesuits, we really focus on building confidence and creativity and real world skills that they'll carry for life. So the QR code is back up again on the screen here. You can feel free to visit our website there and reach out via the website, or you can contact me directly. My email is right here on the screen. Reach out if you have any questions, or if you just want to chat. We'd love to learn more about your programs as well. We do have a few minutes left for questions and discussion.
I have just a quick summary to end. I'll end with this quote here too. But I think looking at everything that we've said as a model, and this sort of goes to your question earlier, Logan, is what are the things that we have learned? And I know this stuff is probably generally shared, but I just want to highlight the things that have become most important to us. One is progress through data. So we do pre and post surveys on every program that we run, and that has enabled us to actively iterate and improve our program continuously to make it better and better. And that has been a massive part of the success the program has seen over the last few years. So that would be the first thing I just want to highlight is, in any implementation of a program, always try to integrate the correct types of data collection to understand the efficacy and the effectiveness of what you're doing. The next one is immersion is a great tool for learning engagement and retention, both retention as in interest and also retention of what they're learning, like the subject itself and the material. So I think recognizing that we're in a world today where students are used to just getting information on their phone every 5 seconds, and we really need to find a way to capture their attention. And that's why I think immersion is so critical, as recognizing that like brains are being rewired from the time kids are like 3 years old. It is a much different brain makeup for learning. And I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I can see that already is just the way that they engage with learning material is much different, and how it's presented to them and what they find is interesting and what they're willing to focus on is I think it's just unique, and it's probably changed in the last 10 years or so, or 5 years, I'm not sure, but so that's the second point is immersion. Anytime you can find a way to bring an immersive tool, it doesn't have to be VR, but something along those lines. And then the last point is project or problem-based learning. PBLs, I think, are extremely effective, and that's really what Starborn Academy does extremely well. So it gives them the problem. It makes it real. It brings in real real world application. And then at the end, we try to celebrate the students. And that would be the last point is celebration, recognition, provides ownership and reinforces interest. So with that all said, we'll just end with this last quote and then open it up to any further discussion. And this is from a CTE director at Salt Lake City School District who had the program running in all her middle schools. She said, when our students leave the classroom, they want more. They want to read more books. They want to do research, and we're ecstatic to see that they've ignited a new sense of learning. And that quote is a direct result of sort of those takeaways that I was just mentioning. We really try to hone in on those takeaways, and I think if we can do those, then we get to see those type of results that Laura was mentioning. And I'll provide some context to that quote is one of the librarians in the school district came to Laura and said, hey, once this program started, all of our space books were checked out. We have no more space books available. And that was when we realized, like, wow, like what we're doing is actually having an impact, that kids are self-motivated to be self-starters and just learn on their own because they're interested now. And that's really, like, if there's any key indicator for success, I would say that's what we've become most proud of is that librarian story is helping ignite that passion for learning.
Well, amazing. We have 5 minutes left. I'd love to open up the floor for anybody that has additional questions. I know we had some people join a little bit later. If you would like to just join in the discussion to ask questions or share your own experiences with VR or immersive tech in education and space education, we would love to chat about that.
Yes, feel free to post your question or comment in chat or come off mute and ask.
And I did drop my email in the chat as well. Logan, I saw you had prompted that there. So feel free to reach out to me directly if there are any kind of lingering questions or if you wanted to have a personal meeting following this summit. We'd love to get to know you guys more and continue the discussion.
I love that takeaway of the library with space-related books having been checked out. There's actually an elementary school that's close to where I live that's called the Catherine G. Johnson Elementary School in Puyallup, Washington. And what I noticed when I visited that school is that, well, besides being completely space themed, their library was chock full of space related books. And so the thought was, I would love to see this program go to that school and actually essentially witness the amount of books related to space that get checked out. That's an awesome takeaway.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that, I would guess that it's a direct result of allowing students to explore and problem solve on their own. I think when we teach ourselves something or discover something or have a moment of awe in an experience that you otherwise wouldn't have in your normal day-to-day, that curiosity that's generated is different than anything else that you are told you need to learn in a classroom, right? It's something that you discovered, and that sense of discovery, I think, is really important for young learners. Well, wonderful. Any other questions or comments? Well, great.
Well, with that, if we want to close out the session, I'll go ahead and stop the recording, and we can make it a great day. Yeah, it's already a great day.
Thank you, everyone. It's good to be able to join today, and look forward to hopefully seeing you all around in different capacities in the coming years.
Thank you, Wendy and Joss, for taking us on a journey of discovery that certainly was intriguing for me and hopefully for everyone else, but opens up the door for a new opportunity of learning, as you mentioned.
Thanks so much, Logan. Thanks for helping to moderate.
You're welcome. Make it a great day.